Hello, and welcome to this evening's Hip Historian Virtual Happy Hour Tour. I am Brenda Holt with AARP Arizona. During the month of March, we will focus on providing resources to help consumers manage their debt and savings and provide trusted information to make the best financial decisions. AARP is your wise friend and a fierce defender of consumers' finances, and we are helping you manage money while fighting on your behalf to protect what you've earned. We are here for you and we will help you navigate the challenging road ahead. Visit us at aarp.org/money or aarp.org/moneymap. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence of over 38 million members and 900,000 right here in Arizona, AARP works to strengthen communities and we advocate for what matters most to families, such as health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. We're glad you can join us this evening. I'll now turn things over to Marshall Shore.
Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary folk, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Hello, good evening. Oh my gosh, I am so happy that you're able to join us tonight for Arizona History Happy Hour. Have we got an amazing night for you here? So, my name is Marshall Shore. I am your host of Arizona History Happy Hour. Now, today is March 10th. Now, it's not just March 10th, but it's a bonanza for Arizona counties because back in 1881, on March 10th, Graham County was created out of a little bit of Apache and Pima counties. And then later on, back in 1909, Greenlee was created as a county by the 25th Territorial Legislature. So I am so happy that you're joining us on this super special day of March 10th. So happy you can make it as we get ready to kind of talk a little bit about what can you expect. Some of you might be first-time viewers. Well, we always have a little bit of Arizona history. We do some trivia. We do Little Arizona. We'll do a little bit of Arizona music history and something from the vault, something that might be just in plain sight or hidden away in a back room. Now, we also have a beverage as well as a super special guest tonight. So if this is your first time here, you might be wondering, who is that man and why is he on my screen? Well, my name is Marshall Shore. I'm also known as the Hip Historian. Now, I got to Arizona about 22 years ago, and I started off in Brooklyn working in a Carnegie building and decided to trade all that snow, slush, and that wind, kind of like what we've got right now outside, for something very different. I traded that for a little library down in South Phoenix. And there was a rich oral tradition of the community of how they had evolved to where they were. And so it was so much fun getting to learn about that kind of influenced me to talk about that modern history. Now, we promptly moved into a lovely 1956 ranch. And there's what my house looks like. All that original buttercream yellow tile, including original appliances. Now, if you look at my oven, there is no window. So it does make baking quite a bit of a challenge, but as my mom said, just don't slam the door because no one likes a fallen cake. Now, as soon as we got here to Arizona, all we heard originally was there's no history here. But I knew that wasn't true, because every time I would go for an adventure, whether it was on foot, on my bike, in a car, I kept running across so many amazing people, places, and stories. And then there's that post-war boom that I think in a lot of ways made the Arizona that we all know and love today, because folks were able to hop in their cars and go driving around and have some adventures. So I also mentioned that I am indeed the hip historian. So you might wonder, well, what does that really mean? Well, I get to play with Arizona history. Like coming up on March 19th, we are doing a walking tour of downtown Phoenix. It's our haunted history tour. We do that once a month. It's a great way to explore downtown, and we mainly look at 20s, 30 eras buildings amongst all the cranes, as there's lots of other things being built right now. On Saturday, I am doing an introduction for the Vagina Monologues over at the Alwyn House, who are celebrating their 50th anniversary of being an art space here in Phoenix. And this morning, I started off my day up at the Desert Caballeros Museum up in Wickenburg. We were doing a series of films, like we talked about Missing, which is a Ron Howard movie from the early 2000s. And we talked about that because they have an exhibit up right now about Apache stories and trying to tell the most authentic stories. And as we know, sometimes, most of the time, those Westerns got it very wrong. And so that's why we talked about Missing. Now, we also talked about some other Westerns. I was able to talk about Joan Crawford in that 1954 classic, Johnny Guitar. And that was really to be able to talk about the Girl Up exhibit that they will be opening up later this month that they've been doing for almost 2 decades. So be sure and check out the Desert Caballeros Museum up in Wickenburg. Now, also, I know there is a chat, so please feel free to throw notes off in there. If there is something you want to make a comment about that you don't get in the chat, you can always reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, email, or even via my website. Now, indeed, it would not be happy hour without a beverage. And my friend PJ, my cocktail advisor, has created the Bloody Squirrel. And so it's got a local limoncello in it. It's got a variety of delicious things in it. So cheers with a Bloody Squirrel. And that's tasty. And so now we're going to talk about Little Arizona. So Little Arizona is, we talk about towns across Arizona because, not only do we have Phoenix and other large cities like Tucson, Flagstaff, but there's a myriad of little towns across Arizona that have a cool history and some great stories. Oh, and there's where that slide went for the Bloody Squirrel and what's in it. So tonight we're going to talk about Naco, Arizona. So it's in Cochise County, has just over 1,000 folks live there. And it was established in 1899. Now, the name Naco, you might wonder, how did it get its name? So there's one story about how it came from the early inhabitants and the nopal cactus. There's another story about how it came from the last 2 letters of Arizona and Mexico. But possibly the most likely story is it comes from the word Nacozari, which was an Indian origin term meaning Hill of the Bears. So I assume there must have been lots of bears down in Naco. Now, Naco is right on the border. So actually there is Naco, Arizona, and then you can cross over the border into Naco, Sonora, Mexico. And that's always a fun thing to do. Now, the town really exists because of Fort Naco. Some call it Camp Naco or Fort Newell. It was one of the last forts built by the U.S. in the Continental Territory and is the only remaining border fort out of several that were constructed during the Mexican Revolution. Now, once during a battle when folks were trying to take over in the late 20s, trying to take over Naco, Sonora, they sent a pilot out to bomb it, and he got the wrong Naco. So Naco, Arizona wound up getting a bomb dropped on it. and it was an international event. It's also home to the Turquoise Valley Golf Course, which is the oldest golf course in Arizona. And they closed down for a short while, but they are back open again. It's also a great place to go have breakfast in the clubhouse if you're ever down in Bisbee. It's just a few miles down the street. And now I'm so excited because we have a super special guest on. We have my friend Candace. Hello, Candace.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. And yourself?
I'm great. I'm very excited for this.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. So, Candace, tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, so well, I'm a native. I've lived here my whole life. I'm an art teacher for the last 20 years. I love teaching art. I love learning about our state. I don't know. That's me.
Very good. You know, we have some of the same passions, which is really cool. So you created some really cool trivia that we'll go through. And so unlike a lot of places when they do trivia, all they care about is what's the right answer. We're going to go through our questions. Then we'll go and the multiple choice answers. Then we'll take a little bit of an Arizona music break, and then we'll launch into the stories of those answers. And there's some really fun stuff coming out tonight. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, you can keep tabs of your answers. Some folks do it in the chat. Some folks do it on a pad and paper. Whatever makes you happy. You could even use a magic marker and your arm. It's all good. All right. So our first question is, Arizona's oldest European community and the best preserved Spanish colonial presidio site is located in what Arizona city? Is it A, Tucson, B, Tombstone, C, Tubac, or D, Nogales? So which one of those do you think is the oldest European community that also has... Oh, and we actually have somebody who's, and that's great. I'm so glad you're able to join us from Mexico. How cool is that? I think it might be our first international visit. So welcome and happy you are here. All right. So question 2. In this Arizona town, you can find the remains of a merman. Ooh, so do you think you can find the remains of a merman in A, Flagstaff, B, Bisbee, C, Apache Junction, or D, Tombstone? And then, you know, when we go through that, we'll talk about, you know, how many of you actually have seen the merman. But that's coming up in just a bit. All right, question 3. What are the only kind of fossils you will not find in the Grand Canyon? A, condor, B, dinosaurs, C, dragonflies, or D, marine life? So what fossils will you not find at the Grand Canyon? All right, question 4. The most dangerous animal in the Grand Canyon is A, Gila monster, B, the bighorn sheep, C, the little adorable rock squirrel, or D, the California condor. So what is the most dangerous animal in the Grand Canyon? Question 5. Mary Elizabeth Jane Coulter was known for designing many of the buildings in Arizona, but her masterpiece was A, Escalante in Ash Fork, B, Havasu House in Seligman, C, La Posada in Winslow, or D, Hopi House on the Grand Canyon South Rim. So what do you think was Mary Coulter's crowning achievement? Question 6. Where in Arizona can you find colorful badlands that look like mounds of Neapolitan ice cream? Wow, I'm already getting hungry. A, Sedona. B, South Mountain. C, the Painted Desert. Or D, Superstition Mountains. So which one of those do you think you can find something that resembles Neapolitan ice cream? And lots of it. All right. Question 7. The first master plan community in Arizona was A, Sedona. B, Scottsdale. C, Clarkdale. Or D, Paradise Valley. So which one of those do you think was the first master plan community right here in Arizona? Question 8. Located in Prescott, Arizona, this museum is named after an American sculptor and painter who was also co-founder and the first president of the Cowboy Artists of America. And was that museum A, the Smoke Eye Museum, B, the Phippen Museum, C, the Charlotte Hall Museum, or D, Professor Hall's Museum? So which one of those do you think? All right, going on to question 9. What national monument is located between Cottonwood and Clarkdale? Now, there's not much space in between Cottonwood and Clarkdale, but there is indeed something really cool there. And so, is it Tuzagut? A, B, Canyon du Chelly, C, Coronado National Monument, or D, Montezuma's Castle? All right, coming up to question 10. How did Sedona get its name? A, the Spanish for red rocks. B, the last name of the first family that settled there. C, the first name of the settler's wife. Or D, the first name of the settler's horse. All right, so how do you think Sedona got its name? All right, and tonight we indeed have a bonus question, which I didn't include. Well, that's not very good. So basically it is, what is the most cultured city between St. Louis and San Francisco in the 1800s? So was it Nogales? A. Was it B, Tucson? C, Tubac? Or D, Bisbee? Which one of those do you think it was? Well, while you are looking at your answers, we're going to go on and do a quick little bit of Arizona music history. So we're going to talk a little bit about Stevie Nicks. She's an American songwriter, singer, and producer known for her work with Fleetwood Mac as well as all her solo albums. Now, she grew up here in Arizona, and she remembers her parents were always playing music because she responded so well to it. She met her boyfriend, Lindsey Buckingham. They did an album that quickly became a local hit. Then the two went on to join Fleetwood Mac. And from there, they did some of the highest selling albums still on record. She went off and had her own solo career, having a variety of hits with Fleetwood Mac as well as in her solo career. Now, you can't really mention Stevie Nicks without talking about her father, Jesse, who had Compton Terrace that was over in Legend City, which everything closed down in, I think it was 83. But before that, she was known to do lots of concerts in honor of her father with the Heart Association. So let's give a round of applause for Stevie Nicks and all the music that we know so well and love.
I love her. And just fun addition to that. I love taking my mom to Stevie Nicks to her concerts. The first concert I ever went to was New Kids on the Block when I was 9, and it was at Compton Terrace.
See, I mean, I was long gone before I got here. Even the one out in Chandler that opened up, I didn't get to experience. But it's like, it's one of those things where when you mention Compton Terrace, people get so misty-eyed.
Yeah.
So and New Kids on the Block. Wow.
My mom almost got in a fight.
Oh my.
She was like 8 months pregnant, and there was a guy in front of us who had his kid on his shoulders, and I couldn't see, and she kept asking him to put the kid down, and she got really upset, a little irritable, very pregnant.
Understandable. Oh my gosh. All right. So now we've got some answers coming your way. So, which Arizona city has the oldest European community and the best preserved Spanish colonial presidio?
That is Tubac.
Indeed. Which is a great city.
And I picked these trivia questions based on the virtual field trips that I did last school year. So
wait a minute, virtual field trips. What are virtual field trips?
So what I did is I took, our kids were in their virtual classes, and I traveled around our state with my iPad and taught live at different locations around the state. So Tubac was one of the places that I went to. I actually got to stay in Nancy Valentine's, her home. Her mom was an artist after the city turned into an art community. And the home that she has was the original founder's home, and like where the post office was, like all of the rooms all connected. So it was a little bit, scary, because I thought there was going to be ghosts, but it was really awesome. And I learned so much because I had her with me the whole time to tell me all about the city and all the history. The Presidio is a cool thing to check out.
Yeah, and it's a state historic park, so there's all kinds of things, not just lots of art to go see, but then old buildings, adobe things to go wander through. So it's so much fun to just kind of go and wander.
Yes. And then also to like look around and look at all the art and, that the community has to offer. And it's such a small little place, but it's full of so much history. It's really cool. Definitely everybody should go check it out.
Yeah, and it's just south of Tucson, so it's not that far away.
That's right. Yep.
All right. So in what Arizona town can you find the remains of a merman?
And yeah, that's in Tombstone at the Birdcage Theater. So when you first walk into the Birdcage Theater, you can just see the front of it. They tell you the history of it. They show you like the bullets in the building, but then you can pay extra and you can go behind the curtain and you can see like where basically, the brothel was and all of that, and the stage. And then there's just random trinkets around there because when the town caught on fire, people left thinking that they would come back, and they didn't come back. So there's so much stuff left there. But then just weird oddities too, like a merman.
Well, and so what I love about that merman is it actually was made by an Arizona artist, Homer Tate, who was famous for creating these things and then selling them off to like Barnum and Bailey Circus or the Birdcage, or you might even find something like that down near Wilcox. If you ever go see the thing, you can say, "Thank you, Homer." All right. So our third question: what are the only kind of fossils you will not find at the Grand Canyon?
And that would be dinosaur fossils. So you can find dinosaur fossils. There won't be any in the canyon. There's some on like the edge of the canyon, but not in the canyon. So that's really interesting. The kids got a kick out of learning about that. And then also learning that there's marine life fossils in the canyon, that it was once covered with the ocean.
Well, it was funny because I was kind of surprised because I was expecting it to be like the condor, and because I was like, I knew it was an ocean, but I was like, oh, dinosaurs. But then I was reading it was because the Grand Canyon is older than dinosaurs, so they wouldn't be there because they weren't there then. It wasn't until later, so that's why you may find them around it, but not in the canyon itself, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And that was my favorite virtual field trip, was taking the kids on and letting them see the canyon.
Oh, understandable.
Yes.
All right. And so what is the most dangerous animal in the Grand Canyon?
And that is that rock squirrel that everybody...
Cute little fuzzy creatures? Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, well, you know, everybody thinks that they're so cute, and everybody's sitting around on the edge feeding them and, you know, trying to give them their ice cream and pretzels that they got, you know, and they get bit.
So I wonder if people guess Gila monster, because it's like I had a feeling a lot of them would say Gila monster.
Right, because you would think that, but it's less likely that you would get bit by a Gila monster than you would, you know, you're more likely to get bit by that little rock squirrel. Stay away from them. And they're everywhere.
Running all over.
All over. It's just, they're like the pigeons of the Grand Canyon.
Just cute little rats, basically. Not that some rats aren't cute, but all right. So Mary Coulter was known for designing many buildings across Arizona, but her masterpiece was...
And that would be La Posada in Winslow, Arizona. You know, I think a lot of people, the only thing that they equate Winslow, Arizona to is the Eagles song. But it really is such a beautiful town. And La Posada, again, is so full of history. And the fact, like for me as an art teacher, to be able to show my kids not only like this great architecture that was there, that was made by a woman in the 1920s, a woman architect to design that building. That was powerful, I thought, you know, and that was her masterpiece. And I love that she made up a story to create the building. Like she made a whole, like a novel about it, basically, like a, you know, like just this imaginative story. And then all the artwork inside is the owner's wife is an artist. And so her artwork is in there, and they've got a really cool gallery upstairs that is, the paintings are all the presidents as playing cards. And they're kind of spooky when you look at her paintings. They're very odd and spooky, but then like when you read the story behind it and you really look into what the paintings are about, it's very interesting.
And one of the things I love about La Posada is the fact that the black and white photo is the front of the hotel, because everyone would have arrived by train.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that was the front of the hotel, as opposed to they've done a lot of work over the years of now making what would have been the back entrance or the staff entrance now really beautiful, adding all kinds of lush gardens and greenery in there to really make what the back door was, making it so beautiful.
Yes, it is definitely beautiful. And I do like that you can see the trains still come in and out. That's really awesome.
Indeed. All right. Question 6. Where in Arizona can you find colorful badlands that look like mounds of Neapolitan ice cream?
And that would be the Painted Desert. Before I had gone on these virtual field trips. I had never been to the Painted Desert. So I was like, okay, let's go check something out. I had no idea what to expect. And I had one of my friends took me, that I was staying with in Winslow, the day before. We started in the Petrified Forest, and there's a main road, so you can start in the Petrified Forest and you can end at the end of the Painted Desert. Of course, the Painted Desert is huge, but the protected land part, you can drive. So you can drive through both of those national parks.
And I think, and Mary Coulter also has a building in the Painted Desert Inn, which is now the Visitor Center.
Yes.
Was also designed by her as well.
I did not get to go into that one because COVID.
That's right. I was up there before COVID. So yeah. So. All right. And 7. The first master plan community in Arizona was?
That would be Clarkdale. I did not do, I drove through here. I kind of like rigged up my iPad one day in the car, and the kids wanted to see me drive from Cottonwood, that we had been doing our field trip in, all the way up to Jerome. So we drove through Clarkdale. But I did do a tour with the art teachers at the Copper Museum there.
I was hoping you would mention the Copper Museum, because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, a Copper Museum. But then you get there and it's like, oh my gosh, a Copper Museum.
Yes, it is. Like, you're just like, whoa, there's so much stuff in there and so much information and so much history. And it's just absolutely beautiful. And so I had no idea until I had gone to the Copper Museum that Clarkdale had such an amazing history, and that it was, a master planned community for the miners that were working up in the copper mines in Jerome.
Indeed. So, I mean, it's a great little, there's so much history just right there. Jerome, Cottonwood, Clarkdale.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, so much fun. All right. So, no, and I got these all out of order.
Oh, there's that one that we thought was missing.
I know that. So I bet the next slide. Oh, there we go. I somehow missed the actual question. All right. So question 8. Located in Prescott, Arizona, this museum is named after an Arizona sculptor and painter who is also co-founder and first president of the Cowboy Artists of America.
And that is the Phippen Museum. I think the Phippen Museum is definitely a hidden gem that a lot of people don't know about. I had no idea about it until I had gone to Scottsdale's Museum of the West and learned about some of the cowboy artists there. And then Wade Weber, the museum educator, he said, oh, you should go do the Phippen Museum. And so they opened just for me for the 2 days that I was there. And it was really cool to have, walk around with their museum educator and have all that insight. And there's just, and George Phippen's studio is still set up, like, not still, it wasn't there, but his painting, the last painting he worked on, and like his studio is there, and you can see, like the bronzing process, and it's a really cool museum.
And don't you just adore Wade? Oh my gosh, he is so nice and passionate about the Museum of the West. Oh my gosh.
Yes, and that is a great museum too. If you haven't gone to Spirit, Scottsdale Museum of the West.
But it's, I think, Spirit of the West Museum.
Spirit of the West, Scottsdale's Museum of the West. Yeah.
And so it's actually a Smithsonian museum as well.
It is.
They always have some great shows going on. So I know there's one there that I haven't seen yet. So we need to swing by and see it.
Same. I also need to go and check that out. So I will be taking the art teachers there in April.
Fun.
Yeah. Very excited.
All right. So what national monument is located between Cottonwood and Clarkdale?
And that would be Tootsie Goot. I don't know if I said it correctly. But this was also a place that I took the kids. We did like a little bonus field trip there, and it was really cool to stand in those rooms that, you know, are however many years ago that are still there. And what I found most fascinating is that it was just a pile of it was like a mountain of rocks, and they just started digging, and then they uncovered all these old dwellings. I thought that, like, who thinks like, you know what, I'm just going to go dig in this pile of rocks today and see what I find, you know?
And look at what you find.
Right.
And then they have the blowhole. So in hot weather, it blows cool air out. And in hot weather, I guess it sucks air in. So it's so much fun on a hot summer day to go stand over and get this nice burst of cool air coming from a hole in the ground.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I mean, again, so much history there.
Yes. Definitely a place to check out.
Indeed. So you must have spent a lot of time in a car driving around.
Oh, yes, absolutely. A lot of time away from home, living in hotels and driving around Arizona. But I really enjoyed it.
Indeed, and it shows.
Yeah.
All right, and then, so how did Sedona get its name?
And this I learned when my boyfriend and I went on a haunted tour in Sedona. Sedona was the first settler's wife. That's what it's named after.
Indeed, and I love. I mean, Sedona, such a great little town.
Yes.
Well, not so little anymore, but.
And there, I took the kids to meet Hanshin. He has he has 2 galleries in Tlaquepaque, and he's just wonderful. Him and his wife are amazing, and the kids really took to his art that is about peace and just like meditation.
Oh, nice.
So I would encourage people to go check out Hanshin's galleries.
And there's like the Peace Garden there. I mean, there's so much to do.
Well, and in 2012, Sedona got, they're officially the International City of Peace.
Oh, I didn't realize they're International City of Peace. How cool is that?
Yes.
Very nice. All right. And then we have our bonus question. So in the 1880s, what city was the most cultured between St. Louis and San Francisco?
And that would be Bisbee.
So actually I found this is from 1899 at the Opera House in Bisbee, all the different activities going on. I mean, you could go to the St. Patrick's Day Ball, a masquerade ball. And so I think one of the things I thought was interesting was if you look at that first listing, Mahara's Minstrel Show, what I thought was really interesting about that is not necessarily the show itself, but that those minstrel shows were the beginning of drag in the US. They always had a male performer who would come out and sing in falsetto, and in some cases became basically so famous they would actually create music, sell sheet music about them, and then like for their final act they would rip off the wig and everyone would be aghast that the person they had just been watching was a man on stage and they thought it was a woman.
Man, I would just like, sometimes can we just go in a time machine and go back and watch these things, and that would have been.
Oh, I know. It's like it would have been so fascinating to just see some of these spots in Arizona when they were thriving boom towns.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a little on the dangerous side at times, but so I'd like to go like in a time machine where that way I could like jump in and come back if need be. So now we always end. I love to ask people how they did. And I always tell people, it's not necessarily how many you got wrong or right, but it's like, now look at some of the places you need to go visit if you haven't. Because there's a whole great state out there with all kinds of cool spots to go to.
Our state really is fascinating, and it's beautiful, it's fascinating, and there's so much to do. And I think that people, they just think Phoenix, like that's it, but there's just, get in the car. Well, maybe not right now, but, drive.
Once the sun comes up, then you can go jump in your car.
Oh, Anita says she wants to go on my virtual field trips.
Well, and actually that might be an option at some point, but we don't want to go down that path quite yet. But
yes, I am actually working on something like that. So,
indeed, you are. So very cool. Well, Candace, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. I'm jealous of your kids because I can only imagine the wonderment that they found. I mean, not just with you, but also in getting to see things they had never seen so close to home.
Yes.
So do you think any of them have gone to go visit any of the spots?
Yes, actually, I've had many of them who have shared with me places like that, especially the Grand Canyon. It's amazing to me how many of my kids had never been to the Grand Canyon, but, born and raised here. I actually have a kid who's at the Grand Canyon right now on spring break. So, and they're inspired to go check places out because of the virtual field trips, and their parents, the parents would come in on the virtual field trips, and then, okay, now we're going to go do that. And I get emails with, from parents of pictures and when they're at the places. So it's been really
how nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
And have a great rest of your night. And I hope to see you either virtually or maybe even in person at some upcoming event.
Yes. Well, I will probably see you in person soon for that haunted tour.
Oh, that's right. On the 19th.
Yeah.
So let me know if you're able to make it. Would love to. I mean, it's so much fun. Now this one we're starting it at 4:30.
Okay.
Instead of our usual 6. So, because there's another paranormal event going on that evening.
Okay.
So we try not to step on each other's toes. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Candace.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. Yeah, and virtual field trips. Who doesn't want to go on a virtual field trip? So, well, now we come to From the Vault. And so what I want to talk about is, so From the Vault, so today is Harriet Tubman Day. And did you know that in Mesa, Arizona, there is over near, let's see. Oh, and I think actually the next slide. So over in Mesa, there is a community near the intersection of Eagle Creek Drive and Saddleback Street that they have a statue of her up. They put it up in 95, and it was created by an artist, Jane DeDecker, and they have a whole myriad of other statues on property. Now, sadly, it is gated, but I think I'm going to try and see if there's a way to get in. I must know somebody who lives in there, who knows somebody. So that way we can go in and see some of those statues, because there was a whole bunch of them, which I thought was really cool. All right, so now you'll see why I always suggest you might want to share this on Facebook so that way all your friends can see all the fun we're having with Arizona history and the amazing people and places that we get a chance to talk about. Now, next week, we have my friend Ashley coming up. He is a writer for the New Times. He's also a local comedian. He does playwriting as well. And so that's going to be a fun episode as well, as we get to see Arizona from his perspective. So remember, if you have any questions, you can feel free to throw them in the chat, or you can reach out and email me, because, I love to hear from you all. That is honestly where I get some of my best stuff, is just from people saying, hey, what about this? And then we're off and running. So I always want to give a shout out to Chris and Cole, who did that amazing intro video for Arizona History Happy Hour, as well as PJ, who came up with the Bloody Squirrel as our beverage for this evening. Now, our outro this evening is going to be the trailer for Johnny Guitar, because it's one of those, I've got friends who said, oh yeah, I know all kinds of Westerns. They had never seen Johnny Guitar. And I love it because it's got Joan Crawford and some really good lines. And I didn't realize it actually made its way to Broadway in the early 2000s. And so I'm looking forward to listening to that cast recording and seeing what they did with the story. So here we go with some Johnny Guitar. See you next week.
With all the violent elemental passions of a sandstorm. This story of a woman who lived and loved too hard and wanted too much, willing to fight any odds to get it.
Down there I sell whiskey and cards. All you can buy up these stairs is a bullet in the head. Now which do you want?
Starring Joan Crawford, the screen's most dynamic artist. Sterling Hayden as Johnny Guitar. Mercedes McCambridge, burning with jealousy. And Scott Brady is the dancing kid.
All my life, all I ever had to do was touch a woman. She melts like butter.
How many men have you forgotten?
As many women as you remember. What took you so long?
No two men have ever loved so dangerously.
Look at him. Fingers just itching on the trigger. I can't wait to shoot me.
No two women ever hated so viciously.
I'm going to kill you. If I don't kill you first.
Johnny Guitar. It's destined to be one of the year's most acclaimed pictures. Starring Joan Crawford, Sterling Hayden, Mercedes McCambridge, and Scott Brady, with Ward Bond, John Carradine, and Ben Cooper. Daringly dramatic, thrillingly exciting, in gorgeous true color by Consolidated.
Get it over with, Pete.
What do you say, Mr. McIvers?
Maybe we ought to what?
Nothing.
All right.
I can't. Not a woman.
I'll give $100.
You'll have to do it yourself, Emma.